In almost every Power BI report that I create, I have a custom date table. And to create these tables, you can follow similar steps every single time. Now let me show you why you also want to work with a custom date table and how you can create one using Power Query. Welcome to How to Power BI. My name is Bas, and if this is the first time for you visiting this channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on everything Power BI related. We are posting short videos, info videos, and practice rounds every single week. Now let's first start off by having a look at why do we need a custom date table in the first place. Now here I have a data set, very simple, where you have the quantity, sales amount, and you have 3 columns. One for order date, one for due date, and one for shipping date. Okay, now I'm gonna switch to the report view. I'm gonna build a simple bar chart. All right, so I'm gonna add the sales amount and I'm gonna, let's say, break it down by the order date. Now you see, I actually in my data set have just one column for the order date. However, there's this little date icon right in front of it. And when I click on it, then what happens is it gives me the whole hierarchy. It automatically gets generated for you and allows you to basically go from the year and then expand down one level to the quarter, to the month, to the day. And you might think, oh, that's super convenient. I have over here the year, quarter, month, day for the due date, order date, and shipping date. However, there's also a big drawback, and that is that Power BI creates for each date column that you have a date table in the background. Okay, now you might be thinking, I don't see that date table. Let me show you how you can actually see that there is a hidden date table. Now, if you go to a tool like DAX Studio and you connect to our Power BI file, then you will see that actually we have some hidden tables there. We do not only have FCD sales, which was the only table that I could see in my data model. However, we have there also a local date table with the date hierarchy, day, month, month number, quarter, quarter number, year. And the same thing again for the next one and the third one over there. So that is drawback number 1. But there's a second one, and that is that these hidden date tables that get generated for you, well, you cannot change them. So that means when I, for example, create a breakdown by months, then I have the full names of the months. When I want to have the abbreviated form, well, I cannot change that. Okay, because that table is hidden and Power BI doesn't allow me to change it. Now, in a similar way, what if I want to create a breakdown by week? Well, in these generated date tables, there's no week column and I cannot add it to it. Okay, so there's not much flexibility. Now, because these generated tables do not offer much flexibility and are also not very efficient, it is usually better to build your custom date tables. Now, to build a custom date table, we have 2 options. We can either use DAX or Power Query. Now, for this video, we're gonna have a look how we can do it with Power Query. So follow me to transform data. Now, let's go over all of the steps to build a date table from scratch. However, in the end, you can just keep on reusing the code that we're going to write now together. Now, let's first start by going here to New Source and insert a new blank query. Now, a date table starts with one column, the date column, that has all of the dates of the years of the period that you're analyzing. Okay, so if we have data going from, let's say, 2020 until 2021, we go from the 1st of January 2020 all the way up to the 31st of December 21. Okay, now how can you create a column like this? Now, first of all, we need a starting date and an ending date. And that's what I'm gonna write down in the formula bar. Now, if you don't see that formula bar, then make sure to go to view first and turn the formula bar on. All right. And then we can type in the formula bar the starting date. Now, let's say we're going to start on the 1st of January 2020. And we're going to have then an ending date as well. So over here, I'm just going to type in the ending date. So that's going to be the 31st of December 2021. So now we can rename these steps. Now you can do that over here on the right hand side under applied steps. So custom one, that is my ending date. So I'm just going to write here end date. So that's basically one variable. Then over here, the source I also want to rename. but it's grayed out. Now, the source tab you can only rename if you go to View, click on Advanced Editor, and then from here I can rename source to something else. So I can name this start date, okay? Now over here, what gets returned will be the ending date, okay? Now we can also put in a comment or more information. So what we are defining now are the variables that we're going to use in our functions later on. So to put in a comment, I can just do // and then type in something like, okay, here are my first variables. I'm gonna click on done. And you see here under applied steps, we now have a starting date, ending date, and there's this info button. And when you hover over it, it basically shows what was in that comment. So now that we have a starting date, an ending date, let's build this list with all of the dates in between. So here I'm going to use a function that's called list.dates. And this function needs, first of all, starting date, which we already have in a variable. So I can just refer to the start date variable. Then we need to say the count. Okay, now let's say that we want to have the dates for 1 year. Okay, so then I could just type in 365 when it's a year with 365 days. And then the step duration. Well, here I can say that it should be a day step. Okay, so if you want to type in days in Power Query, you can just do a hashtag and then type in duration. And then in between brackets, you can say 1 day, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. And you see that gives me all of the dates from the 1st of January 2020 all the way up till the end of 2020. However, 1 day is missing, the 31st of December, because actually I needed to have 366 days for 2020. Now, of course, I could just type in 366, but it's not a very ideal solution. So instead of that, we are going to have a variable that calculates the correct duration for us. Okay, so I'm going to go one step back over here. After the ending date, I'm going to have a new step. And here I would like to calculate the duration. Now there are functions related to durations, and we can say take the duration from, and here I can calculate the difference between the ending date, starting date. So I go for end date minus the starting date. And you see that gives me 730 and then 00, colon 00, colon 00. So there's one more thing that we need to do. It's almost correct. However, we need to extract the number of days from here. Okay, so we need to say duration again. And here I want to extract the days from the duration that was returned. So I'm going to use duration.days and then put what I already wrote in between, close an extra bracket over there at the end. And now it returns 730. So let's rename that step as well to duration then. And now I can go over here to custom one. Let's also rename that one to dates. And then instead of writing there 365, I'm just gonna write now here duration. Now let's see if that solved the problem. So I'm starting on the 1st of January 2020, go all the way till the end. You see, I'm still missing 1 day. And the only adjustment that I need to make is that I go back to that duration step and then add 1. Okay, so I'm going to say plus 1, and then I can go back to dates, and the problem is solved. Now at this point, we just have a simple list with dates. Now, if I want to add more columns to it, well, I cannot leave it as a list. I need to first convert it to a table. Now, that's very easy. You can just go here to the top, transform, and then click on to table. And just click on OK. So now it's a table, and I can do all of the standard Power Query transformations. So let's start by renaming that column to date. And then also apply the correct data type, so date. Well, this was basically the difficult part. So the only thing that's left to do is adding some columns to it, like the year, the quarter, the month, okay? And that you can all do using the functionalities under add column and then date, where we can say, for example, year, and I want to have a new column that shows the year based on that date column. Okay, so now that we have the year, we can select the date column again, go to add column, date, and now I want to have a new column that shows the quarter. Now you see that for the quarter, it returns 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? So this is going to be the quarter number column. Now we don't need to create an additional step, rename it. What we can do instead is just go over here to the formula bar and rename it directly inside of the formula bar. That saves us one additional step. So now that we have the quarter numbers, we want to have another column that shows Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. To create that column, we can go over here to add column. Now we're going to go for custom column. And we're going to call this one quarter, where we want to have Q, and then we want to combine that with the quarter number. All right, double check, no syntax errors, that looks good. I'm gonna click OK. And, oh, disappointment, errors. Let's have a look what the error is. So over here, the expression, we cannot apply operator and to types and text and number. Now to solve this problem, we can go here to the formula bar and you see we're combining something that's text with something that's a number. All right, so to solve this problem, we just have to say text dot from, and then just wrap that quarter number inside of that function. And you see the problem is solved. The red bar stays. However, if you go back and then forward again and tabs, then it becomes green again. Okay, so now we have the quarters. Then we also want to have the months, of course. So I'm going to go back to the date column, add column, date, and then we can extract the month. That gives me the month number. And also here, I would then rename it to month number. And then we go back to date column, add column, date, month, and then we go for the name of the month. Now here for the name of the month, you see it gives you the full name of the month. Maybe you just want to have the abbreviation or the first 3 letters. Then you can go to the formula and say text.start. And then over here, this is the text. And I want to extract the first 3 characters. And now I just have the first 3 characters of the month. You can also add the columns for the weeks and for the days. Now it's exactly the same. Let's skip forward. Now once you have all of the columns that you need, and this can also include the fiscal year, quarter, month column, then clean up the applied steps. And you can do this by first of all making sure that everything is named properly. Once you have done that, you can also open the advanced editor and then include any comments that might help you or your colleagues in the future. So here I could, for example, write date columns. So everything that starts here from that date step. All right. So now I basically have the whole date table. Now, 2 things that might be still quite helpful, and that is instead of just writing the start and the ending date here as variables in your query, you can of course also use parameters. So I can also go here to the home tab and then click on manage parameters and then choose a new parameter. And then here as the parameter name, I'm going to say this is going to be my start date. Okay, it's required. And here it needs to be a date. Now, suggested values can be anything or a list. Now let's go for current value of, let's say 01/01/2019. So here we can now change where the date table should start. However, the only thing that we still need to do is go back to our query and then choose the starting date. So instead of hard coding the date in there, I can also use the equal sign and then just refer to the name of our parameter. Now, of course, I can do the same thing for the ending date, create a parameter and make that more flexible as well. Now, another common requirement that I have is that the ending date actually should be determined by the date of today. So if we have today some date in, let's say 21, that I go and take the very last date of that year that I'm currently in. Okay, so to do that, we have to go back to the applied steps, and I'm going to go over here, select ending date, and then insert a new step. Now to return the date of today in Power Query, what you do is you use a function that's called datetime.date. And then we can use, again, date dot and then local. And then over here we have datetime local now. Okay. Now I forgot over here the open and closing brackets for local now, then the closing bracket for the datetime date function, and that gives me the date of today. So we now want to have the last date of that year. Okay, so I'm going to use another function, which is going to be date dot end of year. This one over here. And that turns it into the very last date of the year. So then also here, I would rename that step then to today. And now you can just go back to your ending date. And then instead of having here equals ending date, we're going to refer to today, which is then being picked up by the duration step, and everything automatically updates when we would enter in a new year. All right, so we are ready to load our date table to the data model. Just make sure that you also give it a nice name. Go for dim date or calendar, whatever you like. Then here under home, click on close and apply. So once you have loaded your date table to the data model, we have to connect it to the main fact table or fact tables. So in this case, we could, for example, take here the dim date and then date column, and then just drag and drop it onto, let's say we want to have the connection on the order date. Okay, so the connection is there. Then we need to make some adjustments to the date table itself. So let's go here to dim date. We first of all want to select all of the fields. And then you go here to advanced. And then here on the summarize by, you can say none. So that makes sure that when you put in the year field or the quarter field, that it doesn't start summing it up because it doesn't make sense. All right. So once you have done that, you go to the quarter and the month and the day fields to make sure that they are sorted in the right way. All right. So I can go here, first of all, to quarter. Well, the quarter needs to be sorted by the quarter number. Okay. So also here under advanced, we can choose the sort by column, which is the quarter number. And then we're going to do the same for the month because we don't want the months to be sorted in alphabetical order. So therefore, I'm going to select the month, advanced, and then choose here the sort by column month number. And then for the day, same thing. Also here we need to select it, go to advanced, and choose the sort by column. Now once you have that, then you can go to the report view, create a hierarchy. So I can just drag quarter onto year. And then you add the month and the day as well. And now you can rename that from year hierarchy to date hierarchy or calendar or whatever you like. So these other columns, we don't need to show anymore. So I'm going to my data modeling view again, and then I'm going to hold my shift key, select all of the columns that I want to hide, and make sure to hide those columns. All right, so now that we have that and we go back, you see it only shows the hierarchy. Now, one important thing that is left to do, and that is we actually didn't say yet that this is the custom date table. Now to do this, we have to select the date table, go to table tools, and then click on mark as date table. And then as a date column, we have the date. Now validated successfully, that's all good. Now we're almost there because you can see that actually these hidden date tables that were so inefficient that we talked about at the beginning, they're still there as well. All right, so to get rid of those, we have to go to file, and then let's go here to options and settings, and then options, and then go to current file, data load, and turn off auto date and time. All right, now if you want to have that for every single file in the future, and then you can just go over here to global, data load, and turn off auto date time for new files, and click OK. And you see that the little calendar icon in front of due date, order date, shipment date disappeared, because now we have our dim date table that we're going to use for our visualizations. So the only thing that's left to do is create your visualizations using your newly created custom date table. So here, if I want to break down my sales by the different dates, then I can just put on that date hierarchy or calendar or however you named it onto the axis. And now it gives me the years, and I can expand down to the quarter and to the month level. There you go. And if you need more columns, then you can just keep on adding them to your date table for whatever your needs are. Now, of course, I wouldn't do this totally from scratch for every single Power BI report that I would create. Instead of that, I just copy over the code. Okay, so I would go open Power Query and then follow the same steps as what we did today. However, instead of doing it step by step, I would just go straight away to View, Advanced Editor, paste in my code, click on Done, then rename my query, and then go to the Home tab and click on Close and Apply. And that's it. I hope this video was helpful. If you still have any questions, just let me know in the comment section below. And if you liked it, then consider subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.